One consciousness needs you. Awareness knows its own voice. One of the main tenets of enlightenment is the existence of a collective voice. Right? Okay. Yes, this is difficult to describe. Actually, it's impossible to describe fully. That's also one of its tenets. Funny that those who would argue against the possibility of the existence of a single voice use this tenet of its impossibility of articulation as proof of its non-existence. The idea is that it's a convenient premise, too convenient, right? So, can't be true. The idea is put forth that no proof is necessarily a cop-out. What does this mean? So it's a convenient premise that you argue against the possibility of a single voice, and you use this as proof of its non-existence, but you're aware of it. So let's deal with this first, right? I believe it was Aldous Huxley in the Perennial Philosophy who said that there was no such thing as a spiritual calculus. It's not a cop-out, but a most necessary attribute of there even being a possibility of a single voice. This is talking about the same thing, and I'll get to it. So how could one hope to prove its existence to another who seems dead set on its absence? That's what we're talking about. All right, that's the task at hand. First, I'd like to suggest its historic presence. Second, I'd like to propose its current presence. And third, I'd like to offer proof that anyone can confirm it on their own right now. So first, the past. We have all the major and minor religions, saints, sages, masters, and avatars over thousands of years. I bring them to your attention because I trust you'll search them out on your own once you've learned how to recognize them. And when you do, you will hear this voice speak through them from time to time, sometimes clearly, sometimes esoterically, but they're there. That's the first proof, the past. You might be able to dismiss it on that alone, but then there's the present day, all right? How is it that we would recognize such representatives today? Religions and dogmas being what they are in general, it's easy to be skeptical. I'm with you all the way there too. But where else would you look for them if not in religions? There's more and more impersonators than there are those who are authentic, right? That's assuming there are those who are authentic. And how could you possibly tell the difference unless you are authentic? And still, if you are authentic, how would you know given the problem is just presented? Like, where's the proof? You can't argue from inside of a system that you're arguing for, is what it is, right? So we come to the question of how do you know? Just as a quick aside, we just proved the necessity for there not to be a spiritual calculus because it would make it too easy to fake and imitate. And we all know what's fake and what we're really struggling with is what's real. Regardless, we have to assume that if they exist at all, these, as Huxley calls them, right, the exponents of the perennial philosophy is what he called it. So let's just start off with assuming that if they exist at all, and if they existed in the past, they must therefore exist now. If they exist at all, they existed in the past, they exist now. I'm thinking in the future too, but whatever. Okay, how could it be otherwise, right? Then, all there is left to do is prove they exist now. That would prove that they existed in the past, and you'd be able to find them and confirm for yourself, which is what I'm suggesting you do. So who are they? They are the ones who hear the voice, whatever you want to call it. And they say with one voice that you too, this is what they've all said, you too can recognize this voice because it is not absent from anyone, and it is not in one more than in another. How's that for spiritual calculus? Are you beginning to see why it cannot be seen any other way? Each has to see it for himself, okay? It's a simple tenet, premise, foundation, cornerstone, foundation, whatever you want to call it. So, all right, still assuming that it exists. Third, how to hear. It's time for some proof. I say some proof because there's no such thing as enough proof. No such thing as enough proof. If you don't want to know, you're just out. Here's one of the tenets no one wants to hear. Proof could be starkly right in front of you in any way you'd like, in any way you'd like, and you'd still deny the voice if you don't want to hear it. This oneness is what I'm talking about. Whether you call it Buddha, Tao, Zen, Christ, Jesus, Muhammad, Abraham, it doesn't matter. The voice. Everybody knows what we're talking about. All right. So, could be right in front of you. So let's start with some proof that it's now. It's here. It involves listening to music. All kinds of music. Turns out some of it is music you've heard countless times. And when you hear the voice in it, you will hear the song for the first time. That's how it is with the voice. It's been there the whole time, right in front of your face the whole time, and you never knew it. So I put together a playlist on Spotify. It's called Freeway. It's under my name, Aaron Sabilla, named after that song, which is Freeway, Robert Plant. Anyone can look it up on their own, listen to any of them. Eventually I'm going to go through them one by one and tell you exactly what the voice is saying through them, in my interpretation, what I hear. At any time, you can discern the voice. You'll hear it yourself. Maybe you'll just get a glimpse. Maybe it will be loud and clear. Eventually, it will be loud and clear. Awareness knows its own voice. It takes one to know one. It's impossible to go back to not hearing it, and it doesn't matter because you won't want to. So I'll start with some of the songs and some of my favorite parts, see if you can discern the rest for yourself, and then feel free to check out what I hear after. It's totally up to you. You are an integral part of awareness itself. It exists and so do you. The voice is conscious, just like you. Awareness knows its own voice.